They're the liberal rednecks. They like cornbread, but sex they care way too much, but don't give a fuck. They're the liberal rednecks that makes some people upset, but they got 3 big old dicks that you can suck.
Shee-wee, here we are, everybody.
Cheers.
We're back. What are you cheersing? What is that?
Whiskey and water.
Nice. All right.
And lemon. Whiskey, water, and lemon. You know, for medicinal purposes.
Yes, medicinal use only.
You can still kind of hear that it's like a little, you know.
Yeah, so you're still tending to your your shredded throat that you've had over there.
Yeah, I think if we didn't have a job where I used my voice a lot, it would have long since healed. But since we do, and I have, it's just, you know, it
Whiskey
just
is one of the hitting medicines for sure.
Oh,
you know, it's like
God.
Doctor says I got a hit, you know.
Yeah.
Doctor's orders.
Doctor's orders, yeah.
In 2025, it's one of the top. But if you go back 150 years,
heroin
and coke, baby.
Yeah, heroin, morphine. I mean, we shared a picture on Putting on Airs, our sister podcast, one time of like just this random little elixir you just buy over the counter, and it was like, you know, fucking. It had heroin, morphine, cocaine. I mean, just all sorts of shit, and they were just like, give this little fucker, he can go to school, and then he'll be back in the field in no time, you know. And it's like, I fucking bet he would. Probably wrote some great Hank Williams songs too, you know.
I was gonna send my wife to the fucking loony bin for talking back, but I gave her some of this, and suddenly she let me put it in her butt and stop talking back.
She was fucking real quiet at first, and then happy. And then
that's a pretty good club, though. I think she'd be all right. Looney Bin, Tulsa, it's a good room. I like it. Yeah, I'll be there in July, June.
Yeah,
honors.
Almost had to make the depression kind of hit, you know. Look, for some people, having that at least tolerable, because now like we're in a sort of depression, but every time we go to get fucked up, we got to like put a fent strip test in it. You know, like their hits were like doctors regulated and like readily available, or you could just go to the soda fountain and get you some cocaine.
I don't know if people could afford it.
That's true. I mean, yeah, but dude, like, obviously.
So this is a quarter, and which is also how much a house costs.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I mean, no, it obviously didn't really hit. And the thing is, they didn't know what they had. Just like the people in the 80s, like, I'm like, God damn, they had Quaaludes. That was so great. But to them, it was just like, yeah, but Reagan, you know what I mean? Like, everything sucks. Like,
well, I don't, you know, I think a lot of people, I mean, obviously.
That were on Quaaludes liked Reagan, yeah.
Yeah, loved it.
For sure.
There are people having the absolute time of their lives right now. And I want you to make no mistake about what's going on in the world today.
Yeah.
You and I and some other people might be either an existential wreck or like a literal, like, what am I going to do with my life because I'm trans or work for the government or both. But there are people.
I know.
But buddy, did you guys follow this guy? He used to be All Gas, No Brakes. I think Trey's talked about him before. He's a big fan. I think he's Channel 5 now.
Yeah.
I kind of lost track of him after he had that kerfuffle and he couldn't call it All Gas No Brakes no more. And I knew he continued to do stuff, but I haven't seen any of his stuff since then.
I got him on Instagram. He hits real hard for me. And what he's mostly doing lately is just interviewing people who are super excited about what's going on.
Oh yeah.
And on the one hand, it's great to watch because they're idiots. But on the other hand, there is a part of you, part of me anyway, that's going, I seethe with jealousy. Look at how happy this crazy Nazi lady is.
Oh, I think about Trey's. I think about Trey's bit almost every day, whether or not in real life or just like perusing the internet. I told you this, Drew, but I didn't tell Trey because last week I was dead. You might not remember this. I told you right at the beginning of our show last week in Athens. I'd gone out the night before and went to this bar, and while we were there, there was this, I couldn't tell how old, in my mind, I'm in this bar, and I'm like, everyone in here is underage. Every single person is underage, because, like, 21-year-olds look like 14-year-olds to me, right? But then walks in this dude who's, like, 6'4", 6'5", and I know that's tall, but I'm being serious. Like, he was like, he looked, and he had kind of gingerish hair, but he looked like if Conan O'Brien, instead of going to Harvard and writing the paper and becoming a comedian, had been more structured to be in the movie Top Gun. Like, he had a real fucking jaw on him, you know, and he was like a ginger, but that good freckly Irish war ginger, you know what I mean? Not the nerd kind.
War ginger.
A war ginger. You've seen him.
I'm gonna start saying that's what I am when people.
Yeah, you are. You're a war ginger. But anyways, he's got on a fucking leather jacket. He's just the coolest, most striking, one of the strikingest, handsomest dude I've ever seen. And he walks over like behind me when I'm ordering a Lone Star or something. He struck up a conversation. I start talking to him, and I realize like, oh, this dude is young. This is about to not hit for me, you know. But we start talking, and it was like he was like a super endearing guy. He was very sweet, you know. And he's not immediately calling me an old piece of shit and calling me dumb. Or if he is, it's going way over my dumbass head. You know what I mean? So we start striking up this conversation, and we're talking about the world, and he's talking about like, you know, all the generations that were better than him, like the silent generation, all this stuff, and blah blah blah. And he was like, well, how you feel about, you know, my generation? Like, how do you feel about younger people? Because you said you're like 37. And I got real emotional. Now I was on like a fucking fuck ton of mushrooms, so I was super in my feels, right? And I looked at him and I was like, man, you know, I know it's cliche for people that are older than you to like shit on the young people and shit on the generation, but like, especially talking to you, man, like I've always really believed that like your generation, like y'all might really be the ones to fix everything. And he got this fucking look on his face, and he just put his hand on my shoulder and he goes, buddy, we're about to fuck shit up worse than you've ever seen in your whole life. Right. And he meant it. And it seemed like he meant it in this like a good way. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like we're about to shake the, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh God, like, yeah, like a shake up the system type thing. Like nothing's ever been good. We're going to fuck it up. But like, that's a good thing. So I don't know, man. You know, like there's a lot of happy people.
For a long time, I just thought that generally, not because of anything specific about the generation underneath us, just because I thought it was just a natural order of things, the way things worked. It's just like younger people get a little better and more progressive, and also like statistically smarter and all this stuff as humanity advances through the ages. So I was always a big believer in it's like, progress happens one funeral at a time. There's more and more people old, you know, people die out, and youngins who got better brains about stuff come up. We'll be all right. And frankly, now maybe this is also the natural order of things is
because in the 80s that wasn't really true.
To doubt the generation after you is just a natural, but like
right.
But that was always my default state until
we're not doubting them because they're being hippies. We're doubting them the opposite.
We've gotten older, and I've synced them. I've seen what they're out here doing. And
Alex P. Keaton's.
I'm not super confident anymore.
But isn't it? But
in Gen Z being the shepherds of our future or anything like that. You know, some alarming reports. Of course, it's obviously not all of them, but it's
well,
like,
Drew, you're 50. You were alive. You were alive in the 80s when this sort of happened. Like that, the kids like Alex P. Keaton was a show that was made because it reflected society. Like there was a lot of young Republicans because of Reagan, right? And Trump molded his whole "Make America Great Again" based on Reagan. You know.
Yeah, I'm 50.
Yeah.
I don't even know what Alex P. Keaton is. I have said on here before that one of my poli-sci professors told me in college, every piece of research we've ever done on every generation shows that they pretty much match their parents percentage wise, and that the only hope we have of progress is just shifting the Overton window, redefining what conservative or liberal or progressive means. In other words, yesterday's conservatives think black people should use different water fountains, and tomorrow's just don't want to pay taxes, was what he was saying is kind of the only hope.
Right.
I do think that with Gen Z, we are seeing a little bit of regress in the conservative side of things. We also may be seeing some progress. You know, you said, you know, like it's a weird thing because I think the way you phrased it, Trey, was I don't have a lot of hope as far as them being the shepherds of our future, but they are. You may not have any hope about how it's going to go.
Right.
I am, maybe because I'm 50, as Corey said, I'm just at a different place where I'm like, man, whatever they do, like it ain't on me. I've actually worked on a bit about this. Like everyone asks me, do you regret having a kid because of what's going on? People be like, oh, damn, what a time to have a kid. It's the best time to have a kid.
Sure.
Because I don't have to do shit. Y'all need to get in these streets and throw some burning bottles. I have done that. I have to be here with this. I would love to be with you guys, but he's got a nap soon. So
100%.
I wish them all luck, and I will help them. I don't mean to be like super flip about it. That's more for the stage as a bit. But like, man, it'll be what it'll be.
Right. And also by the time me and your kids specifically are like our age and in charge of stuff, like we will be long dead. So it really don't matter.
Well, we will be in charge of things soon, but not as much as other generations because we don't. It's weird. My theory on this, I'd actually love to hear y'all's thoughts on this. There are way less millennial, like politicians, leaders of company, people with major power and clout at the age millennials are at than generations prior.
Without question.
Is that, well, it's a fact. My question is that just a math thing? Like,
you can't run for
people
Congress
are
if you don't own a
retiring and
home.
dying later, so they're not giving it up? Or is that a capital thing? Millennials own less, therefore we run less.
I think it's both, and also I think those two things are intrinsically linked because I think it all comes back to, you know, as any millennial, I'll just put it all on the boomers and say it was all their fault. But like they have stuck around way longer than any other preceding generation has and refused to give up power and refused to pass the torch. And that's directly related to millennials have not amassed the type of wealth into their late 30s and 40s that previous generations have. And so it's all just one big, you know,
it never trickled down.
Hit snowball, you know, that we've been dealing with generationally.
We're running the bars.
Also, dude, all the shit people pointed out before, but it's true. And I know we're the biggest, you know, the people who raised us and gave us participation trophies talk about how we're the biggest, softest generation.
For accepting them.
Yeah, right. It's our fault. But anyway, I know that we are that, but at the same time, it's like, dude, the shit that we've grown up through and around and seen, like in our childhood, like, you know, the obviously 9/11 and the war on terror and the war on drugs and the economic collapse, and then
the Patriot Act in itself,
fascism and all this, it's just been wild, and a lot of millennials are just like, you know,
well, what's that
phrase?
cigarette?
They like that meme of fucking Ben Affleck smoking a cigarette or whatever, you know.
Yeah,
they were that as a generation.
As soon as they clicked on, it was already this, and so they are acclimated to it. Where we had to get used to it, and we have the misfortune of remembering a time before, and that gives us hope that it could ever be that again. And they don't have that hope.
They never had it.
Exactly. There you go. But like,
more traumatic.
You know that phrase, it's like there's decades when nothing happens and weeks where decades happen or whatever. Like it really feels like, and I know it's because of the advent of the internet and like 24-hour news cycles or whatever, but it's
not
like
just that.
I know it's not just that, but there's no way that doesn't have a shit ton to do with it. Cause like there's a lot of stuff we just, even big stuff, there's a lot of big stuff that it would take some of us a while to figure out if we didn't have a buzzer on our phone tell us. But like, it feels like we've been living in that type of thing for at least since 2000. I mean, you know what I mean? It's fucking nuts.
Yeah, I do know what you mean. So like what, you know, obviously we don't know the answer. We're just comics, whatever. But like, what's your thoughts on that as far as how's that play out? I mean,
that meter's got to hit.
But do millennials, I don't know, man. I think more people are just losing all faith in anything bigger than like the mayor. Like when it comes to politics, people are like, look, it's fucked. Let's do what we can locally. And I think we'll be way more suited than that for that. Like, I really think that the time of the millennial in politics is coming, but it's going to be like grassroots style. It's not going to be, I don't mean to imply that the next president's going to be AOC. I don't believe that. I mean to imply that like what will shape the next 30 years I think will happen more locally. Some of that's going to be real negative, though. Some of it's going to be like fucking brown shirt posses rounding up Mexicans or anyone.
Yeah, I mean, that fucking like avowed white Christian nationalist group who's trying to buy up all that land near my hometown in the neighboring county where I grew up with like the stated intent of turning it into like a, you know, Nazi trad wife utopia or whatever. Like they're just open about it. They openly say like this country's only for white people, and they also do make an exception for the descendants of slaves, and I assume that's because they're like, because you know we're going to bring back slaves, we're going to need somebody to be slaves, but other than that, you ain't even allowed to live here anymore. And they say all this on a podcast weekly and put out a newsletter and stuff.
Are you saying they're millennials?
I think that the main two guys are. I'm pretty sure they're like our age. I think so.
Yeah,
you'd almost have to be to start. Like no old person's going to start that. You don't start a thing when you're old. You've just been doing it, you know. But
Well,
like,
people might find out about it though. There's a shit ton of like Gen X stuff going on with this tech bro right wingism.
I was about to
Yeah.
say it's a startup, which that's us, you know,
I think that's Gen X with us sometimes.
with
I
us
don't
being
know.
the little pigeons.
I could be convinced either way. I mean, there's like Zuckerberg's definitely us. I think Elon's X.
Yeah. I think so.
Feels X.
I don't even know what that dude. He looked.
Jobs is X. Sorry.
Sometimes I could see that motherfucker, and sometimes he look. I'm like, yeah, it could be late 30s, early 40s, and then sometimes I see him, and I'm like, that's a hard 50. I don't know. Like,
Which one are we talking about?
Peter Thiel.
Yeah.
He don't look.
A lot of them do look
He's
wild.
gay too, which is almost like when they're
Yeah.
black. It's like, well, I don't know. I
Do
don't
they?
have
That's
no
true. I think they also get a lot of. I know this is very stupid to say, but I think they get a lot of chemical pills. Those types of people.
They get a lot of all
Yeah,
that.
he's
type of stuff.
taking chemical pills.
But I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like, sometimes they'll come on and they will just look like a scab. You know what I mean? But then the next day they'll look amazing, and you're like, what did you go to that? Did you get a 1-day sunburn? Like, how does that fucking work?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like, it's all unfortunate.
So, kind of on that note, I guess, because you just reminded me, I saw this yesterday. I remember this being viral at the time. Where I'm going with this, I, of course, read from commenters on Reddit, and maybe completely made up, but, you know, that's how
Surely
we
not.
roll around here. But you guys remember this picture? You're talking about how wild they look and stuff, and I didn't know which one you were even talking about at first, because, like, do y'all remember this picture that went viral of Zuckerberg a few years ago?
Yeah. When he has the white, he has all the zinc oxide on his face, which, like, honestly, respect. I mean, you got to care about your skin.
But he just looks like
Like a
wild
China
as hell.
person
He-
drew him.
Yeah, or like he was, you know, just came out of the robot box or something. Like he looks bloodless.
He
Like,
looks
and
eyelidless too.
yeah, right. It's very reptilian.
He's never
and-
looked good in any picture
right.
I've ever seen.
So, but anyway, what I read was that, and maybe the opposite. Maybe this was common knowledge at the time. But what I read was that, like, it's believed that he engineered that happening. As a, like, that photo going viral and everybody dunking on how he looks and shit like that he planned that as a distraction from him, like, buying up a shitload of land in Hawaii that he's going to use for evil purposes or whatever. So it's
I'm
like,
sure.
You can't be
Anything about,
evil if you're pathetic.
it's like Zuckerberg Hawaii.
Anytime you Google his name, the
Zuckerberg
picture
Hawaii,
of the
you get a
yeah.
picture of that and that story about look how fucking wild he looks, as opposed to the evil shit that he was doing at the same time, and that was like part of his like an actual plan
like
he
a
had,
psyop thing.
and that's
Someone
that's just wild.
who's egoless in that way, or has their ego in check. It's like a strange paradox of someone who has a big enough ego to want to be evil and rule the world so much that they can, like, because, like, that's the opposite of Elon, right? Like, Elon has to believe that people love him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Elon
Which
would
I
never
think
think
will be
this
his
is a bad
downfall.
thing.
I think
Yeah.
that would be his downfall. Whereas, dude, shit like what you just described, that's like, because
Yeah.
That's like
because it
Luther,
sounds
dude.
like almost Zen. Like, I
Yeah.
don't care what people say about me because
No, I know.
I'm too focused on world domination. And
Yeah.
that's like, Jesus Christ, what's going on situation.
Yeah,
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
he's
that's
got his priorities in order. It's just, you know,
That's a
the
good
top
point.
of the list of his priorities is world
Dude,
domination.
Speaking of Elon having to have everybody like him, which, like, God, dude, just talk about the, like, I've never seen a more cringeworthy motherfucker. And, like, the other day, like, he sort of, I don't know if y'all saw him on that CPAC panel where he sort of proved that the difference between Twitter and real life, you know what I mean? Like, where what he, like, when he's on Twitter, he's in inarguably his biggest echo chamber because everybody follows him and everybody sees his shit and everybody likes his stuff and all these people are commenting. And I really think it has, like, inflated his sense of, like, I'm fucking hilarious. Like,
Without
I'm so,
a doubt,
I'm so
it
funny.
has.
And
There's
so he
no
gets on,
doubt
he
that
gets
it
on this
has,
panel
dude.
and he's like, I'm going to say I am become meme and people
Yep.
are going to lose their fucking shit. And he says
Yeah.
it and no one does anything. And it's like, you see this look on his face of like, oh, wow. Like, it certainly helped with the election, but, like, people don't, you know,
Right.
people don't just
he
follow me on
thinks
Twitter.
that,
Yeah.
like, sharing edgelord shitpost memes that get a lot of, like, traction, a lot of which is, like, artificially inflated. By the way. He has people
Yeah.
on his staff there that are, like, extrapolating the, you know, the purported size of his engagement and stuff. But he thinks that all that means that, yeah, like you said, he's super hilarious. That and the fact that fucking Rogan and Chappelle and people fuck with
Jerk him off.
Yeah,
What? Dude, I just
makes
remembered
him think
that.
like I'm hilarious, and then so you love to see it that type.
I know,
because I saw that clip too, and it's like he needs a million more moments like that where
dude,
he's got something that he thinks like this is gonna absolutely crush, and then everybody just kind of looks at him strangely because it was stupid and cringy like everything he says.
I'm sure y'all heard. Well, Drew didn't because he's not on Twitter. The only reason I know this is because I'm on Twitter, and so I got a notification from the app or whatever. So when Elon took over, he was like, in order to keep your blue check or whatever, you got to pay $8. And like, I didn't give a motherfuck about the blue check, but the whole thing was like, it's going to limit your reach if you don't, and also if you want to be able to post longer videos, you have to do this. And like, my whole thing was like, if I can post longer videos, I'll pay, whatever, as long as it's not ridiculous. Like, that's important to me. That's a business decision. I'm just going to do it. Right. Well, at first it was $8. Right. Then it went up to like 17. And I just kept kind of being like, all right, whatever. And then it was 20. And then and then like a couple months ago, it went up to 30. And I was like,
what?
Okay, yeah. Oh, no, you about to lose your mind. This was like a couple months ago. I was like, I'm going to let it go for a couple months, and I'm just going to like test my metrics and see. I get a notification yesterday. It's going up to $50 a month. And I was like, well, no, obviously no. Like, I don't spend $50 a month on any fucking service. You know what I mean? But like, my point is like nothing. It's never been more clear that he is attempting to make Twitter a mechanism to where unless you have money, your opinion doesn't matter. Because nobody can afford $50 a month just to not have their speech pushed down in the algorithm. And I know a lot of people
disagree, but I think it's more of a product of every fucking advertiser abandoning ship.
Sure, he's failing. He's
having to do anything he can to make the
two things can be true though.
Because I think he thinks that like his most devoted people on there will pay it almost whatever it is, and I think he's probably right about that.
He is,
the biggest,
but
like Cat Turd ain't paying shit, but like the biggest losers on there that are so involved in all that and love what Twitter has become, they'll keep paying it, and I think
they
he
are. About
knows
how
that,
many of those are there, and can they float a multi-billion-dollar?
Right.
It
seems
the
like
thing,
there's a lot of them. To me.
No, there is.
What we haven't talked about is people who paid it up front have now gotten addicted to thinking that they hit. And that is a powerful drug, but it's not as powerful as heroin, son. Like he ain't on the corner with the undeniable product. He's gonna
absolutely not. And I mean, I felt like, to me, it was just, I felt it necessary because like my job is like to promote. I want people to see my shit. I want people to see my show.
Yeah,
just now, like, but it went up from.
You went to 30.
Yeah, but it was only 30 for like a month. Like, and that's what I'm saying is it went to 30 and then it jumped to like 50. And like,
have you still got a month? Have you still got a month? Do you still have time left?
I still have to. Yeah, I canceled it, but I still have like another month to.
So you still have to check on there because it's a possibility. I don't know how you're going to.
No, there's a lot of people that unfollowed me because I had to check. Because when it was at 20, you could hide your check, and I did.
I don't know how this is going to land for you, but it's a possibility that you could have just had all that without paying it the whole time, or that when you stop paying it, you'll still have all that.
That's great.
Because the reason I say that is because I stopped a long time ago.
And you can still post long videos?
And for a while I couldn't, and I was having to edit Twitter specific versions of my videos and stuff, which is what I was doing. But then one day I got on and everything was just turned back
to
on.
normal. Well, that's
Googled
great.
it, and they said that they had went, and a lot of people were,
because I was verified.
A lot of people were jumping ship at that time.
Right.
Like I remember the one I saw, I think was Roy, because you know how much I obviously love and respect Roy Wood Jr.
Sure.
He was like, I saw a bunch of people doing it, but he was one who made like a post about fuck this shit type of thing,
right.
And I was like, all right, well I can't.
Well, dude, you know how dumb I am. I didn't pay attention to that. I was like, well, if this is what I had to do, I had to do it.
So I turned it off. But then after a month or two, one day I get on there and I had to check again, and I had all that stuff back again that they had and I even posted when my check came back. I posted on Twitter. I was like, just so everybody knows, I'm not paying for this. They gave me this. This just happened.
Right.
So
I don't give a rat's ass about the check. Matter of fact, again, back when you could even when you had the verified, you could hide your check. I fucking hid it because I was like, I don't want people to, because people they'd just be like, if you got a check, I'm deleting you or whatever. You know what I mean? And I was like, I just want to be able to post a 3-minute video. That's it.
But so I don't know and I don't know what's happened with it since then, but I know that I always, even though obviously my Twitter whole thing has fallen off a lot naturally, I still post every video I make on Twitter, and
we don't hit.
I can still, I still have all that stuff, and I haven't paid in
Well, I'll be damned.
forever. So,
Drew's the only one of us with a moral fiber. He just actually left.
Buddy, I finally had a good enough reason to go. Yeah, we can moral fiber it all day long, but I changed it to Gravy Baby Pod and put a fucking goat as the picture, like, God, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, Elon was involved in that part of my life, but I just realized Twitter was rotting my brain, and I also realized, and we've talked about this before, there was a moment in time, this may not be true anymore, there was a moment in time where a good friend of ours who struggles to sell tickets compared to Trey, like not compared to me, had more followers than Trey on Twitter, but was moving notes. And I was like, it's not even, I can't even justify what this is doing to me financially. I certainly can't justify it in terms of like my life. So I just, even like pre-Elon, not to be a hipster about it or whatever, I just realized it's not that Twitter sucked for me. I will acknowledge people are like, Twitter used to be good. Yeah, it was too good. Like, it was a drug. It was good because I was like addicted to it. It wasn't fucking good for me in any way.
No, I mean,
even worse than other stuff for me.
Well, you know what? Maybe it's time. I doubt we have anybody listening who's paying for that Twitter subscription, but it might even be possible that you're paying it and don't even know it. All right. If you want to know how you could find that out, let me tell you about Rocket Money, our sponsor this week. That's right. That's what they do. They help you find subscriptions and get them canceled. The ones you forgot about. It happened. It's a symptom of the times we live in. It's happened to us all, I assume. I know it's happened to me a million times. I've told y'all before about how I kept paying however much money a month for the app where I could put Corey's face on a cartoon pig or whatever. And even after I'd long since gotten tired of it and quit using it, the last one Rocket Money found for me was a weightlifting app, which obviously I was getting nothing out of, that I had completely forgotten.
You found out you actually had to lift the weights. You couldn't just watch the people on the phone.
I forgot. I don't know why I'd ever even bought it in the first place, but I had, and Rocket Money found it, so obviously canceled that. Toot sweet. I promise you, if you're listening, you probably got something that you're still paying for without even realizing it. And, it's a good time right now. It's the perfect time, in fact, to get organized, set some goals, and try to prioritize your whole situation, everything in life, like your financial wellness, for example. It feels more important now than ever, right? With the pending, everything's coming down the pike. Get your money right, all right? And thanks to Rocket Money, goals feel more achievable. They showed me all the subscriptions I had right in one place. They will help you easily cancel ones that you've forgotten or ones you just decide you don't need anymore. Rocket Money also does more than just that. It pulls together all of your spending across all of your different accounts, so you can clearly track your spending habits and find ways to cut back. All right, Rocket Money, to be as clear as possible, Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. You can see all of your subscriptions in one place and know exactly where your money is going. For the ones you don't want anymore, Rocket Money can help you cancel them. Rocket Money's dashboard gives you a clear view of your expenses across all accounts. You can create a personalized budget with custom categories to keep your spending on track. You can see all of your monthly spending trends in each of those categories, so you know exactly what you're putting your money towards. You get alerts if your bills increase in price, if there's any unusual spending activity, or if you're getting near going over your budget. They have a new feature, a goals feature, which automatically saves money for you, so you don't have to think about it. You pay off credit card debt, put away money for a house, or just build your savings, and Rocket Money makes all of that easy. They will even try to negotiate lower bills for you. Rocket Money scans your bills to find opportunities to save, and then you can ask them to negotiate on your behalf, and they will deal with customer service. The nightmare situation that is, they will do it so you don't have to. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions. That's right, $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/wellred. That's WellRed. rocketmoney.com/wellred. rocketmoney.com/wellred. Check them out today. Start saving. make a hit.
Oh man, you guys know me. I'm pretty high strung dude. Can be from time to time. I need to chill out. You know what I'm saying? Which is why I'm a really big fan of THCA flower specifically. I used to, I still mess with the gummies from time to time, but I sort of like that old school. Sort of brings me back to when I first started, hitting and whatnot. But let's be real, y'all. 2025's been all about change, whether it's work, personal stuff, or just the daily grind. It can be hard to keep up, but here's the deal. When things get hectic, we don't have to go through it alone. Embrace the power of nature and elevate your everyday with Via. All right, trusted by over 500,000 happy customers, Via is the Swiss Army knife of wellness, dedicated to harnessing the natural benefits of hemp to create high-quality wellness products. Whether you're looking to improve your sleep, which I am, focus, recovery, add a little pep to your step, or just get high, Via has something for you with products ranging from 0 to 100 milligrams of THC. I wouldn't do that all at once, but some people are, they're braver than me. Via gives you the power to blaze your own trail. They're also renowned for their award-winning THC and THC-free gummies, THCA flower, which is my favorite, the soothing topicals, which I'll be honest with you, I'd be putting on my wrist after I play golf because I guess I got dainty little wrists. I don't know, but it really hits for me. And also, there's no medical card required. You ain't got to worry about that. You can just holler at it if you're 21 and over. Go to our link. It's Via's website link, and it's going to be in our description, and use the code WellRed for 15% off, and it's free shipping on orders over $100. And if you're new to Via, you get a free gift of your choice. Like I said, I'm a big fan of it because I like to relax. You know what I mean? It's organic, it's vegan, all the things that I am. I'm synonymous with organic and vegan. That's my whole deal as the show. So you can have peace of mind about all that. I like to low dose, but they've got it from 0 milligrams to 100 milligrams. They're the industry leader with over 500,000 customers served. It's also made in the USA, baby. Award-winning service. They got quality ingredients that are sourced from the finest hemp. That's for your peace of mind. Plus, it's all lab tested and certified, and it's affordable and accessible. So if you are 21 and up, please check out the link to Via in our description and up here on the screen, and use the code WellRed to receive 15% off, free shipping on orders of $100. And if you're new to Via, get a free gift of your choice after you purchase. They ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Enhance your everyday with Via.
All right. Speaking of rocket money and where your money's going and all that type of stuff, I was watching a Nick Cage movie last night, right?
Me too.
Con Air, all-timer, obviously. Stacked cast of sundry lunatics and stuff with appropriately 90s premise and just everything about it. So we watched that, me and the boys, and it hit. But I was watching.
It hit for them?
Yes, it did hit for them.
Nice.
I was thinking about. So Nick Cage, I don't know how much of this is like 100% accurate, but what I always heard was, what most people have heard, I think, because he's in everything. He never says no. And people are like, well, he got into a lot of financial trouble with the IRS and stuff like that. And I always heard also, he made all kinds of money in the 80s and 90s, but he blew it all on haunted tombs and dinosaur bones and stuff, right? As you do. But that got me to thinking about, like, you read stories sometimes or hear stories about, like, some of these famous people and celebrities, athletes, whoever, that, like, they make literally millions of dollars, and some of them still do sort of live paycheck to paycheck, and they live paycheck to paycheck with a mansion and a fleet of cars or whatever. But that's why they live paycheck to paycheck, is because they just have
their
all
mortgage
this
is
shit.
insane.
Like with Rocket Money, how I have fucking a stupid weightlifting app and a GIF app that I'm still like paying for. It's like they have
a butler.
Yeah, and boats and stuff that they don't, and it's just like
imagine Rocket Money. You hit the button and it just says, "You have a butler, dumbass."
Kill Jeeves.
Yeah, but I just can't. I'm so poor white trash and money dumb. I know that you ought not be that way. I know it's inadvisable. I can't wrap my head around, like, because usually it's money dumb people that end up doing that type of shit a lot of times.
Yeah,
by necessity. You don't end up like that if you ain't a little money dumb. But
of course.
I guess I'm a different kind of money dumb, because I would be so afraid of
it going away
immediately.
Yeah, like, but I think it's always the biggest ego people who do it. You know what I mean? Like Brian Dennehy, I don't think had a butler. You know what I mean? Granted, he didn't make millions like Nick Cage did, you know.
I think it's biggest ego or lack of it. Like I definitely think there's some people who are like, yeah, money comes, money goes. You know what I mean?
Might as
like
well hit while I have
For the
it
record,
type of
I think
thing.
Nick Cage is doing fine.
I-
So
yeah,
it's
no,
like,
well, he's got rich family.
I don't
well,
wanna-
that's true. Yeah.
and he's made all the. The impression I've always gotten is like, you know, he went through some tough times financially, but he's gotten his shit together and all that. And I don't want to put Nick Cage is he's just obviously a wild ass some bitch.
Well,
I don't want to equate him with some of these like, you know, because there's also like influencers and stuff like that who like rent big mansions and shit, you know, because like they gotta appear,
they gotta look like they
hitting because that's part of their whole thing is hitting, but they're kind of faking it and they're spending everything they make every month on all this stuff. And it's like I ain't trying to equate my man Nick Cage to fucking, you know,
of course not
goats with these people, but I just find it to be an interesting phenomenon.
I don't feel like
if I was one of those influencers, but again, I couldn't. Their brains are just different. But I would be like every day, I would be
this
like,
will go away.
This is insane.
Like, yeah,
right. I don't know.
I gotta feel like a lot of them influencers became influencers because they didn't need a backup plan. Because now, not all of them. I'm sure there's plenty that come from working class families or whatever. But like, maybe not plenty, but there's definitely some. You know what I'm saying? There's no river so long it don't contain a bend. But like, yeah, I do think some of them just aren't worried about it because it's like everything will be. It'll end up working out fine. But like, I mean, I guess there has to be that idea in some people's mind of just like, this will hit forever. Like it's kind of like with actors and influencers and stuff, it's like sort of you go, okay, well maybe you could see why it would, but like athletes is the one that bugs me out because it's like, dude, you know, you only got 8 years in the league. Like, you know what I mean?
Most of the athletes, like their story is about bad advice. Like they were told if you do X, Y, Z, this is exactly how you extend your money. And it's like, yeah, well, you invested in restaurants has never been a good idea.
I just heard that, I don't know how true this is either, but you know, we all remember one maybe the biggest 30
MC
for
Hammer?
30 was Broke, right? Remember that was one of the biggest 30 for 30s. And I heard that actually sort of like our boy Morgan Spurlock was Supersized Me. That documentary actually led to some change, that a lot of the, at least American professional sports leagues after that came out, and it was such a bad look that they started taking financial literacy more seriously with like those like resources and stuff for rookies coming in the league and that type of thing. And I guess it actually has had like it's worked or it has helped at least. Like it's not as prevalent of a thing. Of course, they're also making
and it's
way
a different
more than they used to.
That too, but there's also more opportunities for them after athletics than there used to be. Like, dude, imagine like, do you know how many dudes in the 90s that like hit really hard? And if podcasts had have existed, they would have had such a more longevity. Like Brian Bosworth, for
Pete
instance.
Rose.
Oh, dude, fuck yeah, Pete Rose.
A gambling podcast with
Pete Rose.
Yes, man. But I'm saying
Fuck
like
the Hall of Fame.com.
He would have dude. Right. And like I think about a lot of those dudes who like, you know, they made a lot of money or whatever, but then it's like they retired, those checks got smaller, and like there were only 7 broadcasting opportunities across the superstation and everything, and a lot of them were filled, so they'd have to go on like a small market radio, you know, and be like the guy in small market radio, and then you hope that you move up to ESPN, but even then there's only so many slots, and like now, like fucking you just make, and I'm not saying that like that naturally you still have to hit at podcasting and stuff. Like Ocho Cinco, go ahead.
Possible that guys who played for the Bengals and did Cincinnati area radio, maybe they made podcast money back then.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying
it was a bigger deal,
but only one of them could.
Only 1 or 2 positions.
Yeah, but only one of them could. Like, and I don't mean this is a good. Like, he's starting to make a comeback now, which really don't hit. John Rocker, imagine John Rocker. Like back when all
his time had come again, by the way. Like, of course he's making a comeback. He'd been lurking in the shadows this whole time, and he was like, it's time.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, that guy, and this is all for good and for bad, but like John Rocker in the 90s when all that bullshit happened, if like Alex Jones had already had a InfoWars or whatever, John Rocker would have never missed a mortgage payment. It would have just went right into it. You know what I mean?
Let me bring up something that y'all have touched on indirectly, but I don't think's really been said. Because what we're talking about is like athletes or influencers or actors kind of running out of money. And Trey, you said like it's hard to wrap your brain around it because you're so money dumb that you just would be too like You wouldn't let yourself buy that many cars or whatever.
I'm so money dumb that I'm like, I can't afford, and I mean, I
feel
can't
like
afford
comics are
Maseratis
better
and
at
shit,
it.
but I'm saying I could afford, I look at something and I'm like, I can't do that, or I couldn't afford, because
you're comparing the way they look at the future and the way you look at the future. I think there's a large swath of these people who are incapable of looking at the future. And like in some ways, for some of them, it's their charm. If we're talking about certain rappers, probably certain comedians, there's something kind of charming and childlike about people who just like, when they lose it all, even some of them will still be like, away it goes, smoking a cigarette, talking about, damn, what a time we had.
I'll make it back. Yeah.
It's so like it ain't money dumb or money smart or rich or poor. It's like a literal either refusal or inability or whatever word you want to throw at it. They're not engaging with beyond the present. And what's kind of crazy about that is both the Buddhists and many psychologists would argue that is a much healthier way to live. Now, obviously not if you've got like 3 kids relying upon you for their future and stuff like that.
Right.
But just in terms of personal health, like that's probably better. DJ Lewis could have gotten a TV show and came close to it a couple times and got a fuck ton of money and then spent it all on land to take care of dogs and then whatever else, potato guns or whatever. And I do believe he would still have the land and the dogs at the end.
And a couple.
But I could also see him being like, "Oh yeah, we did buy a tank and blow it up. I forgot about that. But we raised $10,000 for the dogs that day."
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more with it. I guess that's the healthier philosophy if you're gonna be rich. But like the healthier philosophy would be to just not spend all that dumb fuck money on shit and just still live within your means, but like not worry about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. But
that's impossible.
Another aspect is like, what do you do? Like an athlete, for example. Like you said, they know it's time limited, and it's like they try to make enough money to hit forever, even once they can't, physically do it anymore, unless they got broadcasting,
right. Like Brady will be fine no matter what.
Actors and people like that. So, like, I just the other night was reading about 80s movies or something. Something made me think of the Arnold movie, Commando, right? Which all-time classic, one of the dumbest, hittingest movies of the 80s. He kills an entire sovereign nation at the end of that movie by himself, pecs rippling the whole time. And one thing me and Thompson used to always laugh about, and I guess this is common for most people that like were fans of that movie growing up, is like, no disrespect to the guy, great actor or whatever, but the dude that plays the big bad in that, the nemesis for Arnold, is like a doughy guy in a mesh tank top. Like he's not ripped at all. Yeah. He's kind of tall and like beefy, but again, in a doughy way. And it's just like, he sort of looks like fat Freddie Mercury or something. And he's the villain.
Freddie Ford Mercury.
Yes. And it's like, it was always funny. So the other day I was like, I wonder whatever happened to that guy. Right. So I Googled him, and like within the past few years, at least, this might even been like presently.
He put that check in Apple stock or something.
No, it's the opposite. But he's
Zune.
Like, he goes to like conventions and stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Because he played a villain in a few 80s movies. I can't remember what the other ones are. But so to this day, he goes to conventions and sits at booths and stuff like that. And
stuff,
it's like, and I just wonder, because I feel like you have some insight into that, don't you, Joe? Because you know wrestlers and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, like, is that better than just like, I don't know,
sitting at home?
I was going to say being like a bartender or something.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. It depends. Like, obviously, go ahead, Drew.
Well, the back half of my last point, so like the DJ thing, I said he'd keep enough money for the dogs because he's not a complete idiot, and that's what he would want to do. A lot of times, though, you read these stories about him losing everything, and then they just end up being regular people.
Right.
Well,
that's kind of what I'm asking.
Right, but the headline is always like, Ryan Leaf lost everything.
Yeah, see,
and now he makes $100,000 a year at this private school where he coaches football and teaches. And I'm like, sounds like he's doing okay.
I know.
And he hit for a few years. So like, there's a big part of me sometimes I hear these stories about him. Nick Cage has 7 houses and he lost all 6. That's badass.
Yeah, right.
I'm sorry, that rules.
It does, yeah, because he's fine now, because he's okay now. Yeah.
The question but for me, this part of it, it's related to what you're saying, where it's more like, when the time comes, do you just walk away from it all and just live like a regular life versus I feel like those appearance fees and all that type of stuff is a version of like trying to hold on to a version.
Not
of
if you
the
make
old
more money.
Well, that's
Yeah,
the question.
That's what it comes down to for me.
And also,
that's what
like,
I'm wondering.
And also, like, yeah, because with the wrestlers, like, you know, I've been to so many conventions, and I've worked with some of those dudes. Like, when I go to the conventions, Conrad's my buddy, and often I'll volunteer to, like, sit at their booth, and, like, it's not like I'm ever in threat of having to beat somebody up, but, like, basically what you do is you make sure the neckbeard don't spend too much time there, and you be the bad guy so Mark Henry don't have to. Like, hey, buddy, come on now. We got
people at clubs.
Yeah.
For
so,
us, sometimes.
No, we don't. We let people stay as long as we want.
Yeah.
No, we have a guy in the shadows that will kill you if you look at Trey in the eyes.
And if he doesn't do it, I'll just do it.
Right, we will kill you with fire. But, like, for some of them, obviously, I mean, it depends. Like, I've seen some sad lines, where it's like, oh, wow, I don't know. Because, like, a lot of them, like, their deal is, like, you're getting a small appearance fee, your hope is that you will sell enough personal pictures and stuff like that because you have to pay for all those or whatever.
That's what I wanted to know. But so they do get paid just to be there, but it's like a small amount, and then
it depends on who the person is. Because there's some people, it's like Sting is always going to get a big amount because there's going to be people who come to the convention specifically for Sting and then spend money on a bunch of other stuff. And then there's some people who it's like, okay, listen, you're not a huge draw, so we can't give you a bunch of guaranteed money, but what we can do is we'll give you a bigger percentage of your own like sales. So we're going to put you up here, and then if people get here and they decide to buy a VIP pass to see Rest in Peace Virgil, then you can have more of that money or whatever. But like some of them, you could definitely tell that they were like, God damn, this line better be big, this better work out. And then there were some of them where it was just like, they were okay. They just wanted to meet. They really liked meeting the fans. Like Stan Hansen, for instance. Drew, you might remember Stan Hansen from back in the day. He was the cowboy character, always had tobacco coming out of his mouth. He's huge in Japan. He's like a gaijin, over there. And he genuinely just he enjoyed meeting people because I talked to him between people, and he's like, this is great. He's like, I can't wrestle anymore. He's like, but I still like people. They come up and they tell me these stories of like, I saw you at the Coliseum and 70. He goes, and it keeps me young, and like, I appreciate these people because they made me who I am. But again, there's some of them who, like Ted DiBiase, was a sad motherfucker. And I only say that because he was a dickhead to me. Mm-hmm. And this was before the Mississippi stuff, by the way, which is why when the Mississippi stuff happened, it was so easy for me to be like, fuck that motherfucker. Of course he's a dickhead. And it's
Mississippi stuff. What was he
was involved in the Brett Favre
thing?
Yeah. It was Brett. So it was actually DiBiase's son. This is the only reason that Brett Favre has some sort of like plausible deniability is because it was actually DiBiase's son who set up the whole thing. Like DiBiase's son set up the whole thing and like got Brett Favre. He should not be able to deny it, Drew.
Is that an Italian name?
DiBiase, maybe.
Seems spaghetti to me.
It seems spaghetti, yeah.
Assuming it is, I'm going to say what I feel in my heart freely. That just sounds like the name of somebody who's going to rip you off.
Couldn't agree more.
It turns out that it's an actual minority's name. I apologize.
DiBiase's whole thing was he was the $1 million man. He ripped everybody off. Like, that was his whole character. But, like, the reason that Favre had a little plausible deniability, aside from his brain rot or whatever, is that DiBiase's son was the one that orchestrated it all and then just approached those two about it. And some people were saying, like, yeah, well, they just sort of, like, signed off on it or whatever. But, yeah, DiBiase was involved in that scam, too, which, again, couldn't be more in character of the $1 million man.
I wish to God that they would have let me defend some of my clients back in the day who genuinely did not know that the fraud they were committing was fraud. I mean, just like, what a thing. I know what you're saying, but it's like,
I'm not defending him, by the way.
The guy who told me to sign it and not to talk to anybody about it, including a lawyer, he said it was going to be fine when I agreed to defraud the government.
Okay, you understand that I'm not defending Brett Favre, correct? Okay,
but I've always felt like, Drew, in that guy that this dude is talking about, the guy who convinced him to do it, that should just be all him. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, it's like Rico, ain't it? It's like a conspiracy.
If you get that guy defrauded this dude, so
right.
It depends on what they did. If they lied to you, if they made it seem like it was going to be one thing when it was in fact another thing, that is absolutely a defense.
But with Favre, there's text messages.
I did this, but didn't know it was illegal.
Right.
There's 3 reasons that's not an offense.
I didn't know I couldn't do that.
Almost everybody would say that.
Of course, yeah, right.
I forget the other 2. Plus, I didn't want to. A ladybug jumped across my face and it stunk.
Who jumped across your face and it stunk?
A ladybug.
That's their neighbor there in Scott County.
Yeah.
But
That's Bug's wife.
yeah, Bug's wife, Ladybug. Yeah, you know Bug.
We had a guy named Bug. You had a bug?
No,
Yeah,
but
of course, dude. There's a bug in my town and in Andy's town.
Yeah.
Bug Ward, rich, works on cars in the racing, and then the bug here, poor. I don't know what he's into. Probably crime.
Our Bug.
So,
he found out
I'm
some
just
stuff about him
saying.
later.
Do y'all think? Let's say you're one of the. I don't know, but I'm just assuming the guy from Commando. Again, I don't mean any
I
disrespect.
forgot we were on Commando.
I'm just assuming that this guy, the conventions he goes to, I doubt he's the Sting
Of course
these
not.
conventions.
Because I don't even know who this dude is.
So, like, and you said you've seen the other version of the other side of it, and it's like, and it's sad, right? And so it's like, is that so? You get to go fishing anytime you're at home as much as you want to, or do whatever the fuck you want. Then you go to these conventions and you sit there and you make a little bit of money, and it's sad, and people, there's not much of a line, and it's sad, whatever. And it's like, do all that versus trying to get a job at Costco and saying fuck it all. Do
I
you know
mean,
what
I guess
Like,
it just
which
like
one
Drew
is-
said, it depends on if the
What
money
the
is the
actual
same.
money is,
If the
right?
money is the same
Yes.
at Costco, then I'd rather sit there and have people tell me I used to hit and take their picture with me, I guess.
Right.
If it's
Yes.
a 1-to-1 comparison money wise,
Maybe
I think I'm
Costco
with Corey,
benefits.
but for different reasons, and it's
You're still in the
I
bid.
do with like autonomy.
You didn't give up.
Like no, it's more like. Have you guys had a boss? When's the last time you had someone telling you what to do?
Every
Yeah,
day,
I mean,
but mainly Trey.
I mean, I haven't since 2016.
Yeah.
Right, like I don't want to work at Costco. Like,
yeah, I'm not ever having
man,
a
you're
boss.
kind of annoying. But if you're annoying for 45 more seconds, I'll tell this guy to make you leave,
Yeah.
Right.
and then I'll go home and go fishing for 3 days. Versus like, you need to organize the tomatoes.
Yeah, I mean, I like
Once you
obviously.
organize my hands around your throat, you stupid bitch.
Yeah, I mean, like obviously at the Atlanta Journal Constitution, like I technically Constitution. Yeah, I type. I don't say.
I'm a reporter to Journal Constitution down there. I put the words on the paper. It's in.
I got me a editor. Thank God. But like I have a boss there. Don't know who it is. I mean, I know the person that runs
Right,
it. Like,
that's not really. That's
I
not the
know.
same thing.
That's what I'm saying is like, yeah, and we've all had bosses, like, ABC was our boss or whatever, but like it is very much a different thing because like we're sent off to do our thing and we're independent contractors, so that boss will only be our boss for not long for us,
That's the difference between I'm working for somebody and I have a boss.
There you go. Yeah, true. And no, I couldn't do it. Like I know that I couldn't do it. And
I'd take less money. I mean,
Yeah.
arguably for the last year, I did take less money. I don't know. I'd have to do the math compared to being an attorney.
I've taken less money to just be at home with my kid and just fuck around. Like there's a lot of like money is important, obviously, but there's a lot more things in life that are more important. But like, I mean, we've all had this conversation pre-hit.
Trey, are you thinking about embarrassment? Is that like part of what you're getting at?
I was just about to take it there. I was
But those people are at the convention.
Because I was going to say,
They're
Corey said something a minute
embarrassing
ago. Corey said something a minute ago that made me realize like he's not looking at it the same way as me when he goes, yeah, I think I'd rather sit there and let people tell me I hit for a few hours. It's like, because, so he's like, yeah, that'd be cool. People come up, you hit. I do hit.
Rather than working at Costco, like obviously I'd rather be acting.
I'm thinking of the sad version.
People come up to me and be like, you used to hit.
You used to
Right.
hit.
You now don't.
And with all, it's very, very, very
okay,
self-evident to
Trey.
everyone here that you don't hit no more.
Think about this,
and you're
though. Think about this.
Punched in the face by that every moment you're there.
Okay.
Like,
let's go back to your other one, right? You're working at Costco and somebody comes up to you and goes, hey, do you have this in a size 30? Weren't you in Commando?
Yes.
And then he goes, yeah. And they go, I'm going to still need those in a size 32. Ain't that worse?
That's a good point because this just happened. I didn't realize how many things I watched this week or saw this week were relevant to this one conversation. But I got reminded also about one of the guys from the Cosby Show got.
I feel so bad for them, man. Them
took a picture-
syndication money.
Took a picture of some paparazzo or whatever. Realized this guy working at Trader Joe's, bagging groceries at Trader Joe's, was a primary cast member from the Cosby Show.
I hope that guy
took
dies.
a picture of it and posted
paparazzi
whatever.
guy.
And that, you know, it's like Drew was saying earlier, it's framed as just like, you know, lost everything.
Yeah,
like,
right.
You know, followed by whatever. And like people were, it went viral at the time and everybody's just like, God, this is so sad. And so whatever, you know, and the dude.
Sadder than what? Him being on the street?
And the dude, you know, it like, and he just wanted to just, you know, be left alone and not,
Of
and
course.
so that super didn't hit. Now, again, in the era we live in, I further read that because that went viral and it got a lot of attention, I think he has since booked a few different like
Good for him.
acting roles and is maybe
He
you know.
took the picture himself.
You know
His
that happened-
manager
Well,
on
hey,
Twitter.
Speaking
So,
of
I mean,
wrestling,
who the
speaking
fuck
of wrestling,
knows? But-
you know that happened to our buddy Tony Schiavone. Like that literal scenario right there happened to Tony Schiavone. You know our good
He was working at Trader Joe's and somebody saw him.
Starbucks. So after WCW and stuff like folded, like Schiavone was like WWE was the only wrestling game in town. Like used to there was like TNA, and now we're getting back to where there's a lot more. But like when WCW folded, there weren't any other jobs, and Tony was doing like minor league baseball. And I'm not shitting on him; he proudly tells the story. And he started working at Starbucks, but like Tony's never had an ego. Tony's a great dude, and he was like, "Look, man." He's like, they offered me benefits. I got a management position. And then like, yeah, somebody went there. God, my voice is going again. Some wrestling fan took the picture and was like, God damn, Tony Schiavone, you know, working at Starbucks. Like what has happened? Well, immediately after that, like Conrad saw it. They started doing a podcast together, making a good bit of money. And then Tony got back in the zeitgeist. And now he's been the head broadcaster for AEW since it started. So like that happened. But Tony was like, again, like Tony never felt any shame for it, as you fucking shouldn't, by the way, for like,
Right.
Because Tony, like, he didn't waller in misery. Like he immediately was like, I have to provide for my family. My kids are in college. You know, I'm going to go get this job with benefits. And like that part of my life is over, whatever, you know, but like, you know, that shit it does happen. And I hate that it's framed that way because like that guy, you know, obviously does it suck that guy's dream of acting went away with the Cosby Show? Sure. But like, he's just fucking making a living. Who is more shameful, that guy for working at Costco or you making a living taking his fucking picture? You sack of
Definitely
shit.
the latter. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but a more pertinent to Trey's question is like, for you personally, what feels better or whatever like that, or like, you know, well, I mean, the obvious one in our field is like making that hard right turn. You know, start going online and like promoting your Patreon where you're telling everybody about lasers and buttholes that the Jews are creating or whatever, because you can make millions apparently doing that.
Imagine if you couldn't though.
I know.
Imagine
That's-
the guy
Right.
the guy that makes the turn and it don't
And
work
it
and now
don't
he's
hit.
a poor Nazi.
Bro.
Just me.
Brutal.
Kill
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
I think that for me, if I'm honest, like I agree with everything y'all been saying, but just in terms of being honest with myself, manager at Starbucks, someone takes a picture. I can't believe the dude from the WellRed tours, blah, blah, blah. I'd be like a little embarrassed, but I'd also be like, I got a family and I'm the manager at Starbucks.
I wouldn't be on the internet. So it
Bagging
wouldn't matter.
groceries,
Mm-hmm.
I do think bagging groceries, it would be like, wow, this picture and it going out and people's disbelief in it really is reflective of how much I suck. Like that would be that would be the
He's
conversation.
probably old though, right? Like he's
It'd be
probably
the inner
old.
monologue. Well, if I was
still-
old,
yeah.
maybe, but it would be the inner monologue.
Because dude,
Now, to be clear, if I was like gonna like, they'd catch me at court in a suit, and I'd reply, yeah, I whooped the fucking prosecutor's ass that day. But I do think also the ego thing. I do think it would hurt.
What
I
if there
only
was
said
an
that
It
element
just
of
might remind you of a hard decision you
of
made,
course,
right?
or the time you
or
gave
that
up,
was made for
whatever.
you. Yeah.
Or if it was made for you, what if it's like there's an element of shame to it? Because I guess in that same Reddit thread where I saw all this stuff, I saw that fucking Army Hammer, right?
Yeah.
That he he himself said that he's named Army Hammer because he's from the Arm and Hammer company
yeah.
and family, and they're billionaires, but they completely disowned him entirely and have nothing to do with him anymore. And also,
Because he had a weird kink.
All
I-
he
yeah,
did was
yes.
talk about eating people. He never
So-
did it. I don't
and
get
then,
it.
So his family disowned him completely, and Hollywood's blacklisted him or whatever. And apparently he was a waiter on cruise ships. He was waiting tables
What?
on cruise. That's what he said. Like I
I believe him.
And now,
Honestly, respect.
He also now again. Did he say that knowing that people would then talk about it? Now it's back because now he's
Maybe.
trying to do a comeback too, So I don't know.
I'll be honest with you. The only way I'd ever tell you I worked as a waiter on a cruise ship is if I was a waiter on a fucking cruise ship. That's me personally. But, you know.
But this goes back to Zuckerberg. And I guess that is kind of what got us started here. If you have an ego that desires these very egotistically driven things, but you are able to put it aside in terms of your image in order to achieve it, that is a type of craziness where you probably would eat a person. I bet he eats people.
All I know is the only ego I have is like, especially now, is like, I just got to make sure that my boy has money so that he can live. And right now, comedy does that. Even though I've taken like, you know, I've stopped doing several things that made me a lot more money so that I can, but like, I mean, I don't, obviously, if it all dried up, I'd have to do something. And like, yeah, it would sting, but I'd do it and I wouldn't feel bad because now my ego is wrapped up in being a dad. But like, I don't know. It's like that when we used to pre-hit, Trey would always be like, when are you going to, we would always talk about it. It's like, when will you know, like, what age will you be when you realize like, I'm not going to make it? And I always said, I was like, I don't think I'll ever hit that age because I'll always just assume it's just right around the corner. And that's just sort of my attitude is like, you see that meme of that dude like digging, you know, and he stops digging and you see the other panel and it's like right there was the fucking gold. You know what I mean? And I do have that attitude, but as soon as it gets in the way of my kid being able to have a house, I'd let it go, you know?
Yeah. Well, on that heavy note, I think it's about time we get out of here. We're about an hour in, everybody.
I can't talk, so that hits.
But so it's always plugging stuff. Come see me. Also, an announcement of sorts. I'll be in Austin, Texas at the end of March, which is very soon. We messed up on my end and are just now announcing that. So please tell all your friends. And also, if you're just here in the Austin area, come to those shows because normally I would announce that way, way much further in advance. But yeah, at the end of March. Before then, I got Florida and Minneapolis and in the Northeast, all of which can be found at TreyCrowder.com. And then in April, I'll be in Knoxville and Chattanooga, and Drew will be with me in Knoxville, and Joe will be with me in Chattanooga. So obviously, those will be fun. So check them out. Come see us.
Drew?
Listen to Gravy Baby, my podcast with the illustrious DJ Lewis and the wonderful Carmen Morales. She's going to be furious I tried to do the accent and fucked it up.
She'll hear this.
I'll be with Trey on the 11th. On the 12th, I'll be in Nashville at the Lab and Zanies as part of the Nashville Comedy Festival. And that's it. I don't have anything on the books anytime soon. After that, I'm kind of taking it easy for a month or two.
Like Trey said, I'm with him in Chattanooga, and also March 20th, I'm going to be at the Punchline in Atlanta with my good friends, Good Cop, Rad Cop. Some of you, by the way, just saw us together in Charleston, and I appreciate y'all coming to that show because I also announced that like very last minute, so appreciate y'all for coming. But yeah, March 20th, Punchline Atlanta, CoreyRyanForster.com, and go to WeLoveCorey.com for my bonus stuff. I'm not singing, guys. If y'all want to, that's great. Otherwise, we'll get the fuck out of here.
Thank y'all for listening to the WellRed Show. We'd love to stick around longer, but we got to go. Tune in next week if you got nothing to do. Thank you. God bless you. Good night and skew.
Skew.
We're still fancy, putting on airs. We might not know much about history, we don't care. We gon' get drunk and we talk about yachts. We gon' get drunk and we gon' talk a lot. Dress real fancy, sit in our chairs, sip on our tea, putting on airs. We collected from our love of Downton Abbey. We collected, we found out we're both so fancy. Hey, what's the difference between rednecks and royal families? Only money, cause they both have sex with family. Ew. Putting on airs. What other rednecks to talk about foreign affairs? Laughing so hard that we end up falling out our chairs. Sir Trey, Sir Corey, oh what a pair. High class topics with a redneck flair, oh yeah. Two rednecks but we're still fancy, putting on airs. We might not know much about history, we don't care. We gon' get drunk and we talk about yachts. We gon' get drunk and we gon' talk a lot. Dress real fancy, sit in our chairs, sip on our tea, putting on airs. Two rednecks but we're still fancy, putting on airs. We might not know much about history, we don't care. We gon' get drunk and we talk about yachts. We gon' get drunk and we gon' talk a lot. Dress real fancy, sit in our chairs, sip on our tea, putting on airs. Okay, it's Team Squirrel or Team Trey. Oh yeah, we keeping it basic. He thinks that the squirrels at Corey's mom's house are count your blessings. Cause all the squirrels that you ran over, that you think are nameless, faceless, their families are getting together and plotting on you from the attic and basement. So even though Corey is dumb, fat, and bald, he knows how to avoid drama, don't get squirrels involved. Two rednecks, but we're still fancy, putting on airs. We might not know much about history, we don't care. We gon' get drunk and we talk about yachts. We gon' get drunk and we gon' talk a lot. Dress real fancy, sit in our chairs, sip on our tea, putting on airs. Two rednecks, but we're still fancy, putting on airs. We might not know much about history, we don't care. We gon' get drunk and we talk about yachts. We gon' get drunk and we gon' talk a lot. Dress real